The biggest thing that I've seen that keeps business owners stuck is this need to have it perfectly planned out, to have this perfect clarity, to feel 100% confident before they take that big, scary step, that first step. And in reality, all you really need to know is where you're going and what the next step is. Hey, welcome back to Imperfect Action. This is episode 715. Now, today I'm talking about how to actually take imperfect action in your business, because it's very easy for me to stand here on this show and say, take imperfect action. It's the secret sauce to success. But the question that comes up over and over and over again when I say this is, but how? And that's fair enough, because even when you know exactly what you need to do, actually doing it is an entirely different game, because all of the things that pop up to derail us in our mind, fear of failure, fear of judgment, all of the uncertainty, overwhelm, perfectionism, procrastination, all of the other mindset muck that lives in this gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it, the knowing-doing gap. Stuck in analysis paralysis, overthinking, overplanning. That's all in the knowing-doing gap, but you're not moving any closer to stepping out of your comfort zone and doing the thing that you want to do. Now, I'm a big fan of frameworks. I love a good framework. So I've broken down how to take imperfect action into 4 steps. Step 1, dream it up. Step 2, map it out. Step 3, run the experiment. And step 4, review the results. So let's break down a little bit what's involved in each step. Step 1, dream it up. Now, the very first step in the process is identifying where you are going and what you really want to achieve. What are you taking imperfect action towards? Because yes, we're taking action imperfectly, but if we're just blindly taking imperfect action, we're not going to get very far. And it ends up being messy and overwhelming. So we want to make sure we have a little bit of direction. Now, we often think we know what we want, but it's really hard to know if we want something or not until we actually experience it. And most of the time when we are deciding what we want, we're just basing it on our past experiences, or we're trying to avoid past experiences that we don't want to experience again. So maybe you are approaching your business with a mindset of, I don't want to go back to a job. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to achieve a business that means you don't have to go back to this past experience you want to avoid. Or we choose things based on what is expected of us or what we think we are supposed to want. You know, maybe you are told that you need to build this big empire because everyone else around you is saying you've got to have these big dreams, but you really just want a lifestyle business. So getting really clear of what do you want to do? What do you really want? And also asking, what else could be possible for me outside of these limitations that I've placed on myself or that others have placed on me? And like I said, you probably won't know if something is the right path for you or not until you experience it. And this is the magic of taking imperfect action. It's going out there and doing things, collecting these experiences, and then reviewing. Is this aligned? Is this what I want? Do I need to course correct? Do I need to change direction? Or is this actually the right choice for me? Step 2, map it out. The biggest thing that I've seen that keeps business owners stuck is this need to have it perfectly planned out, to have this perfect clarity, to feel 100% confident before they take that big, scary step, that first step. And in reality, all you really need to know is where you're going and what the next step is. And as you start to take each step, you'll figure it out. It's a little bit like driving in the dark. You can only see as far as your headlights are illuminating the road. But as you move forward, you see what's in front of you. That's what taking imperfect action is about. For example, this podcast, when I first started it 715 episodes ago, I had no idea what it was going to look like. I didn't think that 5.5 years later, it would look like what it does today. It even has a different name today to what it did 5.5 years ago, because I took action over time. I figured it out over time. I started sharing content. The topics that I was sharing about changed over time, and that's cool because I was figuring it out. And when you do something new, you'll figure it out as you go as well. Action creates clarity. It creates so much more clarity than planning and overthinking ever will. And as you take action, you will start to realize what's working and what's not. And you can make those changes. And you'll have obstacles pop up that you never could ever have planned for. And you'll figure them out as well, because you will. And you'll probably be better at figuring them out because you're not so attached to this one fixed plan that you've created. You're a little bit more open to seeing what happens and able to course correct and adapt. So get really specific. What is the first small step that I need to take? And it's not going to be planning. Planning's not a step. Planning's not action. What is the first action step that I need to take? And once I've done that, what's the next small step? And the next small step. And eventually you'll get to where you're heading. Number 3, run the experiment. So the key to taking imperfect action is to think of it all as an experiment. Of course, you want it to work. Of course, you want it to work. But there is a chance that it won't work. And that's all part of the process, and that's okay, right? Entrepreneurship is all about risk. And if there wasn't any risk, then there wouldn't be any reward in it. Everybody would be running their own businesses and creating new ideas and putting things out there because it would be guaranteed to succeed. But there's no guarantee, and that's actually okay. And if it doesn't work, great. We now have a lesson. We're closer to success than if we hadn't tried at all, because there is always something you can learn from it to make the experiment better next time. And at this part of the process, it's really natural to want to try and control everything, to be so tightly gripped to what we are doing and trying to control that outcome. But control is quite the illusion. Now, you can't control every part of the process, and it's going to be a waste of your energy because there is so much outside of your control. A few years ago, I was doing a launch for an affiliates course, and I had planned everything out. I'd written these awesome emails to go to my list. I'd created these social media topics that I wanted to talk about. And then 3 days into cart open, I got the measles. Now, there's a reason why people don't want to get the measles these days, especially as a grown-up. It is horrific. And for 10 days, I couldn't get out of bed, let alone show up and talk about this course that I was promoting for my affiliate. So luckily, I had prepared for it. I'd scheduled as much as I could, but there was still so much out of my control. I couldn't control the fact that I got sick. I couldn't control the fact that I couldn't get out of bed, but I could prepare for it as much as possible, right? So we can influence certain things, we can prepare for certain things, but we can never control that actual outcome. And fortunately, that launch ended up going pretty well because of the preparation that I had done, but I had to let go of this grip that I had. I had to let go of the need to control. I had to let go of this need for that launch to succeed. Otherwise, I was just wasting my time and energy that I needed to put towards recovering. And then step number 4, review the results. Did this work? So first of all, we want to review them through an objective lens. And working with so many people who are launching courses, one of the things I hear over and over and over again is, my launch failed, 5 people bought. That doesn't mean it was a success or a failure. That could be a really successful launch, depending on the context. You might have a tiny, tiny, tiny audience. If you have 50 people in your audience and 5 people buy, oh my goodness, that's a really good launch. Or maybe the course that you're launching is like a $10,000 course and 5 people buying is actually $50,000 in revenue. That could be a really successful launch. So we want to look at it objectively, right? What happened? What percentage of people converted if it's a launch that you're talking about? And then we want to look at it subjectively. Did it feel aligned for you? So if you launched a course and then you realized that you actually hated teaching this particular topic, then maybe you won't launch that course again. Or maybe you'll tweak it or you'll pre-record it so you don't have to teach it again. And if it didn't work, what was the lesson that you learned from it? Is there a way that you can pivot this thing or you can tweak it and you can try again? Sometimes, though, you do just need to know when to quit. Now, I'm a big fan of trying something new for 12 weeks and then at the end of that 12 weeks deciding, yep, I'm going to stick with this, or no, I'm not going to stick with this. When I started this podcast, that was my approach. I thought I'm going to do this for 12 weeks. I can commit to 3 episodes a week for 12 weeks. And if I hate podcasting, cool, I can give up. I can quit. But thankfully, I loved it. And here we are 5.5 years later. But knowing when to quit can be really tough, especially because of this concept called the sunk cost fallacy. You may have heard of it. When we have already invested a lot of time or money into something, we keep telling ourselves, oh, I've just got to keep going because I've already invested so much, so I'm going to be really close. And we see this a lot with businesses where somebody has spent years building this business and they don't know when to walk away from it because they've invested so much time and money into it. I did this as well with my first business. I'd put in nearly 12 months before I decided, actually, this isn't working. I need to just close it down and focus my time and attention on something better. And thank goodness I did that. Now, if the result of your action was success, yay, the experiment succeeded. That's great. But please don't keep moving the goalposts. Please take a bit of time to celebrate, reflect on how far you have come before you move on to the next thing, because as overachievers, I'm an overachiever as well, we often focus so much more on where we need to go than how far we have come. We focus on the gain, not the gap. So look at what have you achieved? Take that moment to celebrate before you move on to the next thing. And if there are only 2 things that you take from this episode today, I want them to be these. Number 1, you only become ready to do something and confident to do something by doing it. These things don't happen by waiting, by planning, by overthinking. And often overthinking and overplanning can actually make you feel less confident, less ready. They can put more doubt into your brain than there was previously. And the second thing I want you to know is the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is imperfect action. So take those 2 things away, go and take some imperfect action. Now, if you're not already subscribed to the show, hit the follow in Apple Podcasts, subscribe in YouTube, or follow in Spotify, and you'll get each new episode delivered straight to your podcast app every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you so much for listening. Catch you next time.